We mostly talk about the Denver Broncos playoff drought following their Super Bowl 50 victory, but we rarely talk about the team that lost that game, the Carolina Newtons. Today, I will reveal how the Panthers went from a Super Bowl contender to possibly one of the worst run organizations in football, and how the problem is even greater than we think. Since Super Bowl 50, the Panthers have missed the playoffs 7 out of 8 years, had 6 seasons with double-digit losses. They willfully traded away their 2 best offensive weapons and have fired their head coach mid-season on 3 different occasions, which definitely does not rule. Rule of thumb: make better decisions. Probably the most obvious symbol of the Panthers' downfall was the rather rapid decline of quarterback Cam Newton, who went from the unquestioned MVP of the 2015 season at the age of 26 to a guy who couldn't stay on the field in his final 5 years in Carolina. The only time Newton stayed healthy for a full season after 2015 was 2 years later in 2017, and it's no coincidence that the Panthers went 11-5 and made the playoffs that season, playing in their only postseason game since Super Bowl 50, which there are a lot of 6-year-olds out there walking around never knowing how good Cam Newton really was. Lazy ass 6-year-olds. Go back and watch some film, you casuals. Those sad sack 6-year-old Panthers fans probably don't even know who this guy is.
Carolina Panthers with sharp teeth and claws. We growl to win this game. We call pro football.
Everyone always worries about how much money they have to spend during the holidays, but what about where you store your cash? Today's episode is sponsored by Ridge.com/that'sgood. If I didn't already have my Alpine Navy Ridge wallet, I'd be asking for one for Xmas. Well, after seeing this one, I might have to ask for another. Ridge simplifies your way too thick wallet and helps organize your keys and everyday carry essentials. It's an awesome gift to give this year as well. Ridge has 30 plus colors to choose from. It can hold up to 12 cards plus cash while staying incredibly slim. Mine holds $2. It can hold more, but I just have $2. Plus, it features RFID blocking materials, protecting you from digital thieves, but that won't stop those pesky refs from stealing wins from your favorite team. So use my link below, ridge.com/that'sgood, to get up to 30% off through December 20th. It's one of their biggest sales of the year, so do it now. Ridge has a lifetime warranty, over 80,000 5-star reviews, and a 99-day risk-free trial for you to test it. And with my link below, you can enter to win a Ridge bundle worth $4,000. Order one now for yourself or for the perfect gift to give this holiday season. Here are the quarterbacks that Carolina had to trot out while Newton was sidelined a total of 18 games in his final half-decade with the Panthers. Derek Anderson, Taylor Heineke, pre-XFL, Kyle Allen, and Will Grier. It's hard to win games when your quarterback, who was making $20 million a year, back when that actually meant something, was sidelined. After that nice 2017 season by Cam Newton, Carolina underwent an ownership change after Jerry Richardson was ousted. Enter $2.2 billion from David Tepper, who had a 5% ownership stake in the Steelers prior to going all in with the Panthers. So far, Tepper's $2 billion has purchased him 30 wins and over 60 losses. But this team was also rocked by the surprise retirement of former Defensive Player of the Year Luke Kuechly, who suddenly stepped away from football at 28 years old after 8 seasons of all-pro level play. 28 is and seems young for retirement, but 8 seasons in the NFL is brutal. Kuechly had 7 Pro Bowls for his team in those 8 years. He was basically like the Christian McCaffrey of the defense. That sparked what was basically a complete overhaul for the Panthers in 2020. A season before, they had let Ron Rivera go mid-season, which was kind of a strange move for a coach who had been there 9 years and won 3 playoff games. But we'd soon learn that was not a one-off move for the Panthers and their new owner, David Tepper. In stepped Matt Rhule, a college head coach who had rehabilitated Baylor after a massive scandal, who signed a 7-year contract with the Panthers and was called a program builder, and someone who can build an organization for the next 40 years by Tepper. 2020 was a hard year for anyone to get their first head coaching gig in the NFL. You had to deal with all of the COVID protocols, there was no preseason, the draft was weird, and the schedule was always shifting and players were dropping like flies. The Panthers had signed Teddy Bridgewater after he went 5-0, filling in for Drew Brees with the Saints a year before, but that turned out to be more of a result of that sweet, sweet Sean Payton magic than a real Bridgewater renaissance. 2 gloves was not the answer for Matt Rhule, neither was old Sam Darnold, who joined the team via trade in 2021, and Cam Newton's return to the Panthers that same year resulted in 5 losses and 5 starts for the 32-year-old former MVP. But he did throw a touchdown and score a rushing touchdown in his debut return, and that did feel good. They tried to hit the reset button on Baker Mayfield. That didn't even last a full season. God, I almost wiped those 6 starts from my memory entirely. I will say fuck the Panthers for sending Baker Mayfield to the Rams so he could humiliate my Broncos on Christmas. Now, the guy who was capable of building an organization for the next 40 years didn't even make it to 40 games for the Panthers and Matt Rhule, and once again, the Panthers fired their head coach mid-season. That led to an interesting decision for the front office and ownership. After Rhule was fired, following a 1-4 start to the season, Steve Wilks took over as their interim head coach and went 6-6 down the stretch, winning games with Sam Darnold and PJ Walker. No small feat, all right? Not to mention, he did all of this after the Panthers had traded away running back Christian McCaffrey to the 49ers, a trade I think the Panthers lost, and lost hard, by the way. I'm glad Colorado's own Christian McCaffrey went to a winning organization, but his trade is one of the best examples highlighting why the Panthers are doomed. Now back to Steve Wilks. He had been a head coach before in Arizona, but it went about as disastrously as it could have gone. And 2-14 season later, he was done. But let's cut him some slack. His quarterback that year was Josh Rosen.
What do you think of this kid, Josh Rosen?
Everything Josh does is easy. Yeah, it's just so fluid and, except for bouncing slants to receivers.
When David Tepper promoted Wilks to the interim head coach, he said he's in a position to be in consideration for that position. I had to talk with Steve. No promises were made, but if he does an incredible job, he has to be in consideration. Basically, he said, if he's really good, maybe I'll think about it. Look, I think 6-6 for Wilks, given those circumstances with the Panthers, was nothing short of an incredible job. And he was beloved by his players, as he has been throughout his entire career. Derek Brown said,
I'll speak for everybody in that locker room and said that, we want Coach Wilks to be our next head coach. That's for sure. And, I think every single week when we're to come in, he's going to tell you exactly how it is.
Shaq Thompson, one of the longest tenured Panthers, said this: we ride behind Wilks. He came in here, he's a true alpha, he's a true leader, and guys follow behind him. Mark Davis and David Tepper really are the Spider-Man meme when you think about it. 2 owners who had coaches their players liked. Coaches who were getting more out of the team than anyone expected and said, smell you later, fuck boys. So no, Tepper didn't care, and he hired Frank Reich instead. And even as one of the biggest Frank Reich apologists out there, it's very hard to defend this move in hindsight.
I got this directly from Jesus Christ. Then we went to this. Don't boo the pitcher, we're in church. And if anybody cheers the pitcher, you're dismissed.
Wilks went on to become the defensive coordinator for the 49ers, and given the track record of the last 2 San Francisco DCs, I think he's probably going to get another shot to be a head coach in the NFL. And given the massive swing and miss the Panthers made this offseason, Wilks probably dodged a bullet. But let's talk about what's quickly shaping up to be one of the worst trades in NFL history. Okay, maybe that's dramatic, but maybe not. Maybe 2 worst trades. We're all very familiar with the deal at this point, how Carolina got Bryce Young. They sent wide receiver DJ Moore, the 9th overall pick, which did become Jalen Carter, a 2nd round pick, which became Brenton Strange, and a 2024 1st round pick, which is currently the number 1 overall pick, all for Alabama quarterback Bryce Young. But it's not just the trade up and the loss of DJ Moore, it's also the Christian McCaffrey trade that killed this organization. I don't really need to rehash the Bryce Young versus CJ Stroud dynamic more than I already have on this channel. I've done entire videos about both of those rookie quarterbacks. Suffice to say that we're talking about Stroud as a potential MVP in his rookie season, while we're talking about whether Bryce Young has the arm strength, stature, and athleticism to be an effective quarterback in the NFL. In terms of compensation, though, Carolina got fair value at the time for Christian McCaffrey. 4 draft picks, a 2nd, a 3rd, and a 4th in 2023, and a 5th in 2024. Except the 49ers are really good. And we're even better with known robot Christian McCaffrey. So that 2nd was basically a 3rd, and so on. Then Carolina packaged that 2nd with receiver DJ Moore to move up and get Bryce Young at pick number 1. They kept wheeling and dealing the picks they acquired from McCaffrey, and they've ended up with Bryce Young and 3rd round edge rusher in DJ Johnson. Meanwhile, McCaffrey ranks 1st in almost every statistical running back category, and DJ Moore is on pace to break Brandon Marshall's single-season receiving record for the Bears. So Carolina got rid of not just their 2 best offensive playmakers, but 2 of the best offensive playmakers in the NFL, and then drafted a quarterback who is in most need of playmakers to be successful. Now, I understand sometimes you gotta move a player to get draft picks, right? To build your team. But when you're trading away talent, you've gotta replenish it, even if you're trading away that talent to get your quarterback. Then if you're doing that to get your quarterback, you better make sure you get the right fucking quarterback. But it gets worse than that. Stick with me. It's fair to wonder if Frank Reich would still be the Panthers head coach if he had gotten his way and been allowed to draft CJ Stroud. And honestly, you don't really have to wonder. The answer is yes. Absolutely, he would still have a job. David Tepper, in his first press conference after firing Frank Reich, said,
originally we were going to go to the number 2 pick, and we thought we would get CJ because we thought the Texans were going to pick Bryce. And listen, we preferred Bryce. He was our number 1 pick. We had a lot of conviction.
That, for me, was illuminating, okay? The thing I'm not sure anyone has mentioned is this. Carolina had to add DJ Moore to the mix to move up to that number 1 spot. So they double fucked themselves by pushing to get to the number 1 spot. Had they just stayed at 2 after executing the trade with Houston, who would have jumped to number 1, they would have assumedly drafted CJ Stroud, who then would have had DJ Moore as his receiver. Okay, John Elway outbid Jerry Jones and Andy Reid back in the Paxton Lynch draft to get Paxton Lynch. Yes, Carolina, this is your Paxton Lynch draft. Let that sink in. Tepper also said that it was nearly a unanimous decision among the coaches and scouts to go with Young over Stroud. I wonder who kept it from being a 100% unanimous decision. And I wonder if that guy's input mattered. And now I'm wondering if Frank Reich was the only person with the balls to say no to David Tepper, to have a differing opinion from David Tepper.
There's different philosophies in ownership, you know what I mean? Some owners kind of stay away and don't engage a whole lot. Other owners do. It hasn't been fun. You know, it's not fun. Those meetings aren't, I wouldn't characterize them as fun meetings.
What's just as concerning for Panthers fans as the start of Bryce Young's career is the level of involvement that David Tepper has with the day-to-day football operations in Carolina. The job of an owner is to not meddle. It's to sign checks and leave the football people alone.
Snapping necks and cashing checks.
Take a page out of Walmart's book, okay? Spend a ridiculous amount of cash to hire the correct head coach, replace the field twice a season, build a big-ass video board, improve the fan experience at games, and then just get out of the way. Get out of the way. They're doing it right. But that's not Tepper's style. He's closer to Jerry Jones than he is to Rob Walton.
I want me some glory hole.
Tepper is the third richest NFL owner with a net worth over $15 billion that he racked up as a hedge fund manager. He's considered the greatest hedge fund manager of his generation. He prints freaking money, but he's turning the Panthers into a poverty franchise. Tepper is, putting it mildly, kind of just a strange dude. He once bought the mansion of a Goldman Sachs executive who passed him up for a promotion just so he could demolish the mansion and build a new one in its place. He also said in a 2010 New York Magazine profile that if someone is an asshole, like a waiter at a restaurant, I think I could just buy this place and fire that guy. That's some small dick energy. Wait, actually, David, do you want to buy my YouTube channel then fire me? You want to buy this channel and fire me? Boy, that would teach me a lesson. Oh, price tag is $12 million? And then just get rid of me, Dave.
Howdy, folks, and welcome to the Hillbilly Kitchen. Today, we're going to be making a 2-ingredient.
So I'm not sure he's the guy you want running the show. When he bought the team, Tepper said that he wanted to run the Panthers like a hedge fund. And I have no idea what that means, but I know it has not worked. I think football teams are different than hedge funds. Wait, no, I know they are. Tepper inherited an 11-5 team in 2018, and since then, they've gone 30-63 and counting. When Tepper fired Frank Reich after just 11 games with the Panthers, the shortest stint in 45 years, he followed it up with a really bizarre press conference where he mispronounced Frank Reich's name on 2 different occasions, which apparently was no accident according to Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk. Quote, "This is just his way of putting people in their place."
Frank Reich.
The press conference only lasted 13 minutes and 58 seconds, by the way. He completely froze out Scott Fowler of the Charlotte Observer, who was sitting in the front row and had his hand raised the entire time, which is probably not a coincidence given that Fowler has been extremely critical of Tepper during the last 6 years, and rightfully so. I feel bad for Panthers fans, I really do. Bad ownership is the one thing you cannot fix in the NFL. It's like a genetic defect or having a small penis, which I think should qualify as a disability, by the way. Yes, I do get to park up front at Walmart because I have the balls to admit my penis is not enough. At least with a terrible head coach or a bad GM, you know that their days are numbered. But that's not the case for owners. They run the show, and the only thing that can get them to sell the team is pissing off other owners. They can commit a lot of fucking crimes, and that's not going to get them ousted if the other owners are happy with them. Dan Snyder, Dan Snyder, Dan Snyder, Dan Snyder. Or doing Blue Jeans Friday like Jerry Richardson, so he could talk about how women's butts looked in those said jeans. Now, I'm not sure a phenom assistant like Ben Johnson would be interested in coaching for a guy like Tepper, or that an established veteran like Bill Belichick would want to put up with his shit either.
I want to love people, but yet I'm a sinner.
Tepper essentially has to find a great head coach and a coach who has the ability to deal with David Tepper. He has to find the very rare man who can fight and win 2 separate battles on 2 separate fronts at all times, coaching his team and dealing with Tepper. Is there hope for this team? I'm really not sure. It's hard to spin this positively after saying what I said in this video and remembering this team, despite having the worst record in the NFL right now, does not even own that pick. Maybe that's not the worst thing, given their recent draft history. Some of it was bad luck. Some of it was bad decision making. For instance, taking Derek Brown 1 pick after Justin Herbert.
Derek Brown is going to Carolina.
Or a year later when they took J.C. Horn over Patrick Surtain and Micah Parsons. And a year later they took Ike Ekwonu over, well, well, just about everybody would have been better in the first round. The Panthers still own 6 picks, however, thanks to the final piece of the McCaffrey trade, and they've got the opportunity to either build a supporting cast around Young, or they can take one of the lower echelon guys in a very deep QB class to challenge Young as he enters his second season. And look, I usually try to end these things on a positive note, but it's going to be really hard with these Panthers given everything I've explained today. But I still want to see Bryce Young succeed. I want to see him with the head coach that believes in him and not the fake way that Frank Reich believed in him. I want to see one consistent offensive coordinator in his ear after they changed it around multiple times this last season. And I want to see him with some weapons that aren't DJ Chark and Adam Thielen. Carolina's taste in DJs, by the way, is atrocious. They replaced DJ Moore with DJ Chark and DJ Johnson and are stuck listening to ska for the rest of their days. Their favorite DJ is probably the Spotify DJ, which sucks, by the way.
I'm gonna change the vibe a little bit. I can tell from your listening that you really need therapy.
But I digress. I'm watching my Broncos emerge from absolute hopelessness and slowly turn it around. After that, I don't think anything is out of the realm of possibility. So, always have faith, Carolina. Thanks for watching That's Good Sports. Balls deep dive into the Carolina Panthers. Please subscribe here for more YouTube videos about football, football-related things, and football. Football? Flu ball? Flu ball. Shoobaloo? Shabadee. Shoobadabadee-badoo.
And until next time, remember to put God first.